Norsworthy, I hope you're having a great summer. Welcome into the game in T-Town.
Thank you for having me, Ryan, where it's always college football with me and you and in Tuscaloosa. And glad to be talking the history of Alabama football because it has a storied one. As many have said, Gene Stallings was the first I ever heard say it. If Alabama started retiring uniform numbers, they had run out.
Well, and, we actually mentioned that conversation yesterday. We were talking about Mark Ingram and Derrick Henry. In 2016, they made an announcement they're going to build some kind of statue or, some way to honor their Heisman trophies. And we talked about that yesterday is if you started retiring jerseys, you would literally, you wouldn't have any. And that's the amazing part.
You wouldn't. I mean, you just start with that uniform number 22 that Mark Ingram did win the Heisman Trophy for. And if you're ever going to retire one, that might be the time. That might be the symbol of excellence. But, for our friend Barrett Jones winning the Outland Trophy and wearing number 75. But there have been so many great 22s, way back in Alabama football history. One of the first one I remember Johnny Musso wearing number 22 and Mark Ingram wearing, I think Derrick Henry wore 3 different numbers while a member of the Crimson Tide. He wore 21 as a freshman, and then went to 27.
Yep.
And then won the Heisman wearing
number 2.
And so, a bunch of numbers, as the duplicate numbers are all the rage now in college football. Look, get you a number between 1 and 99 and find you one. We don't need everybody, especially when you're trying to do a game and spot all the different number 4s and number 8s out there.
Hey, Brett, I'm kind of curious what you guys are talking about up in Memphis. Like, if we tuned in this afternoon, what's on the agenda? What's on the buffet up there in 560 a.m.?
Well, really a smorgasbord, of course. With the NBA Finals, we have some of that being NBA town, but we have a lot of college football. I'm going to feature the AutoZone Liberty Bowl executive director as they and all the other SEC Bowl partners have all re-upped through the 2025 run. Very excited about that, locking in the Big 12 against the SEC in that game. And, of course, at the festivities today, way back to the very first AutoZone Liberty Bowl featuring Rip Engel against Coach Bryant's team and Penn State and Alabama. And, of course, the Alabama storied years here and the Ole Miss years here. 37 times the AutoZone Liberty Bowl has had an SEC team in it, and the very first one in Memphis had Auburn and Ole Miss in it. They were the opponents that day in the SEC on a cold day in 1965. But we always have some college football. We've got some baseball. We got a little golf. We've got a little Major League Baseball draft because the draft last night did not include, and so far today hasn't included, 2 players that will impact playing time this coming football season in the SEC from Memphis. One, Maurice Hampton, the cover corner from MUS, and will be going to LSU now. He was not drafted in the slot he wanted. And at Ole Miss, Jerrion Ely, do everything all-purpose back 5-star that narrowed it down to Ole Miss, Bama, and Clemson, signed with Ole Miss, and he wasn't drafted. And both of them will see the field. I don't know if they'll run out there first snap for Ole Miss and LSU respectively on opening day, but it won't be very long before their number's called and they'll be out there. So the Major League Baseball draft with some college football impact.
Brett, did the alcohol conversation come up last week at the SEC? Because we were down in Destin and really dialed in everything happening down there. I'm curious if the alcohol conversation came up on your show, and if so, what are your thoughts?
Yes, Ryan, it did, and other subjects, including some of the kickoff times for the early game. But it did, and I'm pretty libertarian about it and about most issues. It's not for me. I'm not going to in the stands, but if an adult by me wants to, he can do it with some responsibility and some reasonableness. And, that sometimes that might be a lot to ask from some college football fans, but I'm for it. I don't like the idea of, the SEC kind of rattling a tin cup needing revenue sources, please. I mean, it's sure not hurting for money, but they'll always need more. Because, we got to pay every quality control coach $600,000.
Well, and I think that's the really the big conversation when you talk about revenue that, but really what it is, it's about ego. It's not about revenue. It's the Big Ten made more, and we got to find a way to catch it.
That's it. That's 100% it. And I wish they would be just candid about that. Now, you hear all kind of studies that incidents go down with the legalization. Look, prohibition failed and failed royally way back when, and we've had this pretense around college sports of not being involved with alcohol and alcohol sales when we have been. Georgia, I don't really mind what they did. They basically said, yeah, we're going to have it, but you're going to really, really pay to get it. It'll be everybody's decision, and everybody will want to try to make more. But you're right, it is the ego thing, and we are battling the fans staying at home. But I think that's more the ease of TV and the glut of games and the FCS opponents on SEC schedules. I have said, and I know it will never happen, I think it is pure D shameful to schedule an FCS opponent for any SEC teams. I respect those teams, those Big Ten teams, Notre Dame, USC, UCLA. They've never played one, and we shouldn't in the SEC. At 130, it would be 129 people you could play, 130 total in FBS. You find you somebody FBS to play football against, and preferably somebody to play in the neighborhood. The fans of that team could get to Bryant Denny, could get to Jordan Hare, could get to Vaught Hemingway, to get to Scott Field, that Davis Wade Stadium, could get to these SEC places. And, 1 out of 15 or 20, you're going to lose that one. Somebody's going to lose those kind of games. But the sun will come up, and it'll be fine. I would like to see 9 SEC games, the mandated Power 5 games, that's 10 games, somebody in FBS, that's 11, and then this twist. It's never going to happen, but I want it. And you see it being done in the ACC right now with Wake Forest and North Carolina. When they don't meet as a conference game, they meet non-conference. I'd like to see East versus West, so we don't go 10 and 11 years without going for, like at Ole Miss. We haven't been to Knoxville since 2010. Don't go into 2021. At Ole Miss, we haven't been to Missouri yet since they've been in the league. And A&M or Georgia, I don't think has been to A&M yet since they've been in the league. I mean, this is the balkanization of the SEC, and I miss the Eastern opponents. I miss the Tennessee rivalry for Auburn and Tennessee. I miss it at Ole Miss. I miss going to Athens with any sense of regularity. We haven't been since 2012 at Ole Miss. Don't go again until 2023. I think we should have a game that doesn't count as a conference game between East and West. Will never happen, but I wish we would. This cream puff scheduling has got to end, because it is a legitimate something the rest of the college football world can pick at us legitimately about. And
Brett Norsworthy, 560 AM there in Memphis, Tennessee. Let's go to college football here for a couple of minutes. What do you expect from Alabama in 2019, Brett?
Same old, 12-0, and playing in Atlanta.
So you mean you're not subscribing that Nick Saban's sliding, Alabama's done, stick a fork in him? You're not going with that theme?
I mean, I would have to almost fake a laugh to laugh at that.
I'm just kidding.
Ryan, it's just balderdash. I mean, think about it. Only one place, maybe one place in all of sports that you can get nicked up one time, and they got beat pretty good, and that kind of puts a pall on the season. Only one place. It's the biggest brand maybe in all of sports right now, and historically it has been. I mean, it's there with the Yankees. It's there with the Cowboys. It's there with the Lakers and Celtics. And Coach Nick Saban, it made it even a bigger brand. But it's been that way since the 20s, since the first Rose Bowl appearance, and it remains that. And it's the one everybody's trying to knock off. I respect and really, really, really like Dabo Swinney a lot, and he's done it. He's earned it. But he, in his heart of hearts, I guarantee you, he still feels like he's chasing the Bama monster.
Brett, let me go to quarterbacks here, and it's kind of a fun conversation we love to have here as we reflect on the Alabama tradition and history. And we're going to start out the gate today. We did favorite player yesterday. It really had a lot of conversation about who is your favorite all-time Alabama player. We're leading into quarterbacks today. I wanted to get somebody on that can kind of help us connect with a history standpoint. If I ask you to name the top 3 quarterbacks in Alabama football history, who are they?
For what they did at the capstone, what they did as a college player, I would have to start in the record books. Hold it up for me. I would have to start with A.J. McCarron, 1, then go Joe Namath, and not just for panache, but for things he did on the field, including running and including in 62, his sophomore year, the last year of two-way football, playing some free safety with Gene Stallings as his position coach. I would go 1. I'd go 1 AJ, 2 Joe Namath, and 3 I would go Ken Stabler.
All right. Let me ask you.
All-time favorite player.
Okay.
Not hard at all for me.
Yeah.
That's Memphian, an Outland Trophy winner, 3-time national champion, an extraordinary human being, Barrett Jones.
Which is an outstanding guy that's just a couple of miles from where you're located there. They're in Memphis, Tennessee. But going back to quarterbacks here for just a minute, can Tua be a part of this conversation, Brett?
He can be, and he was almost in a super elite conversation. If he puts the ribbon last year around Heisman Trophy, he would be coming back this year to join Archie Griffin as the only two-time back-to-back two-time winners of the award. But he didn't. Injury and other things cost him at the end of last year. But statistically, it's so very strong. At the end of this year, just kind of filling in the back of the football card, he has those requisite numbers. And hard to believe that 4,000 passing yards might be a requisite number. But if he does that and a Heisman Trophy, then I think Tua would go 2-1 if we had this conversation a year from now. Because, to the victor go the spoils. You have that much in the trophy case, and you have that stiff arm award, it moves you up. But AJ was mighty good. So many people want to think what you did as a pro and have that factored in. But just in college, let's remember the winning and the accolades and the yardage that AJ racked up.
What I was trying to think here a couple of seconds ago is help me out. You're a much better historian of this game. Back-to-back winners, national championship, quarterbacks that have done that. AJ was so close to 3. Who's in that conversation going back-to-back winning national titles?
Well, Tommy Frazier did it in the 90s.
Right,
Nebraska.
Okay, Nebraska.
And was some kind of college player, and I loved him. I thought one of the fiercest competitors ever. I think Matt Leinart probably got that at USC, too, in back-to-back years, and a great college player. But it's very, very difficult. It's hard for a team. It's hard for anybody in sport to go back-to-back. That is really tough. And, what Bama's done and all the different assistant coaches and all the different players, it's just remarkable what's been accomplished. And now at Clemson, they got a very good chance to go back-to-back with their quarterback. Maybe even, walk on the moon with the three-peat. But getting through those playoffs and getting through, Alabama, Clemson, Part 5, and, we're on a beeline for that. We're on the express track for that this year in college football. I think Alabama opens the season 5-0 by average of about 45 points a game.
Well, and then you kind of wonder what attitude, because I think that was Alabama's problem last year a little bit. I think you let complacency. It's human nature, Brett. We all do it.
Mm-hmm.
When you're beating teams the way that Alabama was beating teams, and that's the kind of concern a little bit that you kind of worry about it. Will you have the same focus when you beat teams by 45 points? That's a concern, I'm sure, for Nick Saban as well, because this schedule looks very manageable here in T-Town.
And it is. And you're rolling up those yards, and you want to protect Tua, and he got nicked up, more than nicked up. Tua was, I won't say severely injured. I don't know the medical on that, but it sure appeared he was very hurt. And I'll tell you one play that really hurt him down at Baton Rouge, and the play that he caught to the midsection, and midsection being kind about where he got hit.
Sure.
Man, that one had to hurt for a while, into a few weeks. And then you take him out in blowouts, and it's just hard to stay that sharp. And in the SEC championship game, what a relief appearance by Jalen Hurts.
100%. Hey, Brett, who's the second best team in the SEC West?
Probably LSU. It could be Texas A&M. Sure could be Auburn. It's going to be a fun battle there. Tell you, Bama quarterback, he didn't win a national championship, but I hope people never forget the year that Blake Sims stepped up and won that locker room and took that team over in 2014 and really kind of got them recentered and for down the stretch of the season. That was a valiant, really team effort that I hope people don't forget. But there's so many. Back to, I think probably maybe Coach Bryant's favorite player in the late, great Dr. Pat Trammell, to Steve Sloan, to all the players in the 60s, mentioned Kenny Stabler, into the 70s with Scott Hunter and Stedman Shealy and the Rutledges and Walter Lewis in the early 80s. Just so many. Gary Hollywood. It's so many. It's a great discussion. And, it's one of those great for talk radio because there's really not a right or a wrong answer. You can't say, oh, no, you're crazy. because it's just so many. You know, it's like walking in the Louvre and trying to pick out the best painting.
Well, and going back to Blake Sims, if 2014 is not the season of a record setting with Amari Cooper, and they set an SEC single season passing record here, I don't know if Nick Saban doesn't pull the gun and go back to maybe not opening up as much as he's done in 2015, 2016, and kind of progressing as where we are in 2019. So if Blake Sims does not have success, I don't know if he's willing to open it up and continue that spread sort of combination.
And a super guy, a quality person.
Brett Norsworthy, have an awesome show this afternoon. Thank you again for jumping on the show here in T-Town, man.
Anytime, Ryan. Thank you.